Michigan was supposed to be 3-0. Most people that knew Michigan knew they were 3-0. They played the first, second, and 18th worst team in the country in UConn, Colorado State, and Hawaii. And, there was nothing that really needed to be needed. Michigan didn't need to make a statement. No players need to make a statement coming into this game. Corum had a good game, but we know he's a good running back. And JJ, the QB situation, was already kind of solved coming into this game. And also to make it more clear, Cade is now out for a few weeks, so JJ is the permanent starter. He went 15 for 18, 214 yards. And I know it's a small sample size, but he leads the country in QBR, yards per pass, and percentage of completion. And to make this, his stats yesterday even more amazing, he did 15 of 18, 214 yards, but he could have stacked on 2 or 3 touchdowns if Corum didn't run the ball and score a touchdown from the 1 3 times and from the 11. If McCarthy had a dump off to Shoemaker in that zone, or a few of those to Hall, it could have been 15 for 18, 214 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So the no touchdowns is not something to worry about. He played great. And he only played, half of it? We played 7 QBs. That has to be a record. And, he showed his connection with Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell had 7 receptions, 96 yards. We saw the deep threat of Roman Wilson come into play again. He had 3 receptions, 64 yards. We saw Henning had a few catches, Schumacher. So we saw the depth in our wide receivers, which we knew already. We saw the depth of our running back, including Blake Corum, which we knew already. And we also saw JJ shine bright, which we knew he could do. Now, the defense was a bigger question. I don't know about coming into this game, but coming into the season. They obviously lost Ojabo and Hutchinson, and it's not as good of a Georgia D, or they didn't lose as much, but Georgia lost 4 first-round picks, and Michigan lost 2. And I think, obviously Hutchinson was his second pick. This defense has reloaded really well. The defensive front, with Mozzie Smith, Mike Morris, Braden McGregor, Chris Jenkins, have been really good. And get this. Everybody, not that, but 14 people on the defense have made a tackle for loss. And I know this kind of represents how last year it was Hutchinson and Ojabo. They were the spotlight. Everybody knew to look for them. Everybody knew it. And it was stupid if you said they weren't good. Everybody knew they were good. You had a highlighter on them the whole game, the announcer did. And now there's some diamonds in the rough, especially with Mozzie Smith, especially with Mike Sancherzel. That is getting better at cornerback. He had 2 tackles for loss. So this defense is adjusting well. This offense is adjusting well. The special teams, Henning had, a touchdown, but of course it is a preseason, as I said. Michigan did not choose to play Washington early, or Texas early, or Notre Dame early, like some of these teams did. They had a preseason, and it went well, but they had starters versus second team. So, they look good, but we'll see if they can do it on Saturday versus a pretty solid Maryland team, which is 3-0. They have Tua's brother who would sling the ball. So it's going to be, an interesting matchup there. The rest of college football, it wasn't that great of a slate. You saw Oklahoma crushed Nebraska's. Another week of hopeless Nebraska fans goes home 49-14. And another hyped-up matchup, but this one wasn't close, and, Nebraska lost it. Mickey Joseph was interim head coach. He said it's his fault. I don't know if it's anyone's fault. I think just they need a good coach. And there's going to be some good options coming into the off-season. Urban Meyer, they've been saying, Urban Meyer is a big Big Ten guy. He likes Ohio State. They're saying Urban Meyer could go to Nebraska, but not much reporting, not much media news have been there. Penn State crushed Auburn in the one and only SEC Big Ten schedule matchup. Penn State is sneaky. They're 3-0. They have a good offense. They have momentum. They'll play at Michigan. And then Texas A&M had a big win versus Miami, 17-9. Texas A&M bouncing back from that tough loss against Appalachian State. Now, Georgia played at 11 a.m. on ESPN versus a middle-of-the-pack South Carolina football team. A team that was led by Shane Beamer, who had lots of momentum. And a quarterback, Spencer Rattler, that, I don't know where he went, but 2 years ago, before he got replaced by Caleb Williams, who is now at USC, he was a very big Heisman voting. And Georgia just crushed his team. It was not close. It was like the Oregon game, but Oregon was much better, led by Bo Nix. This game was over before it started. The highlight, if you were a South Carolina fan, was a coin toss or whatever show they had at halftime, because this was not close. Stetson Bennett played good. Actually played great. He had 2 touchdowns. And I think he should get more Heisman voting, because this is a guy that, you know his story. He wasn't highly recruited. He played in back of JT Daniels. Many people didn't think much of him, but as a backup for the 1 or 2 games, Daniel wasn't there. And he's took him to a championship, and they're undoubtedly the best team. I think I'd pick Georgia versus the field. So I think Stetson Bennett could get more credit, and he should. I get C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young are, fun players to watch, and they have big names. Georgia does too, and Stetson Bennett have had more success. And here's an interesting fact. Keep in mind that the running back 2, McIntosh, and the running back 1 for Georgia only had 8 carries for 40 yards. They had no running game, and they still crushed a South Carolina team. And the main thing, of course, with this Georgia team is what they lost on defense. They lost 4 guys to first-round picks. They lost 7 defense starters. They lost the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. But if you look at the first 3 games, keep in mind this isn't no Michigan schedule. This is Oregon and at South Carolina. And they've had better point differential, less points allowed, and held these teams, the first 3 games, to a better average in the first 3 games. So the developmental process at Georgia and the recruiting is somewhat like Alabama. It's just changing players. It's not changing talent. And you can make a case that this defense is better. You can make a very strong case that this offense is better. And you could make a very, very, very good case, and no one will doubt you until they maybe lose to Alabama, which I don't think they will, that Georgia is a far better chance to win versus anyone else. It's amazing what they're doing. Paul Finebaum said a few weeks ago, Georgia's the new Alabama. I completely agree. Because Alabama, maybe not this year, but back in 2015-16, it was just a system that reproduces. And you kind of see it now, but not as much. Georgia, you see a reproducing system. This is one of the best teams we ever seen from 2021. And 2022, it looks like this Georgia could almost even blow 2021's Georgia out of the water. So what an amazing job Kirby Smart have done.